The year was 3120. At the edge of human space, where stars were cold and quiet, stood a small space station called Outpost Asteron 9. It floated alone near the border where human exploration had stopped. Beyond that point, the galaxy was unknown. Commander Rhea Holt stood in the control room, staring at the holographic map. She was a strong and calm woman, known for her bravery in many deep space missions. She had seen war, silence, and strange things in the dark. But tonight, she felt something different. The lights in the room flickered once. A low hum echoed through the walls. Another power glitch, Rhea asked. Lieutenant Juno K., a young tech officer, looked up from his screen. No, Commander. All systems normal. But there's a signal. Something just touched the outer sensors. Rhea moved closer. What kind of signal? Juno's hands trembled slightly. It's not a ship. Not a natural, and not human either. It's repeating every 13 seconds. Very old code. Unknown origin. Rhea narrowed her eyes. Put it on speaker. The room filled with a deep, pulsing tone like a slow heartbeat followed by 3 words. They are coming. Silence followed. Everyone in the room froze. Was that ... English? Officer Marin Voss, the station's science head, asked quietly. No, Juno said, his voice dry. But somehow, our systems translated it. 2 hours later, the station's deep space drone, called Scout Wolf, returned from the dark edge. It had been exploring a nearby asteroid field, where the signal came from. But something was wrong. Half of Scout Wolf's hull was melted. Its antenna was twisted like soft wire. It drifted in silently, without power. Rhea and her team pulled the drone into the hangar. They opened it carefully. Inside, the drone's camera logs were still intact. They watched the last recording together. Screen showed a normal asteroid belt, then a sudden flash of red light. The stars behind the drone vanished as if space itself had folded. Then, a giant shape moved across the black. It was not a ship. It had no engine. It looked more like a shadow made of stars, stretching forever. Just before the video ended, the drone recorded a sound. The border was crossed. The old ones have noticed. The screen went black. Rhea stood in silence. She turned to her crew. Where exactly did this happen? Marin pulled up the coordinates. Right outside the mapped sector, near a red dwarf star. No human ship has ever gone there. Juno looked pale. Commander, maybe someone did. Rhea frowned. What do you mean? Juno opened an old file from the Central Earth archives. 12 years ago, a mining ship named Prospector 9 went missing. Last ping was near these coordinates. They were looking for rare minerals. They went further than allowed. Rhea's eyes narrowed. And no one told us. Marin added, official reports said it crashed into a sun, but now, maybe that wasn't true. Later that night, Rhea walked alone to the observatory dome. Above her, the stars looked peaceful, but something had changed. The air felt heavier. Suddenly, the sky lit up. A wave of red and violet light rippled across the stars. The lights danced for a few seconds, then vanished. The station's alarms screamed. Rhea ran back to the control room. Commander, Juno shouted. Something just appeared at the border. What is it? I don't know. It's not solid, but it's huge, bigger than anything we've seen. Rhea stared at the monitor. A distortion in space was growing. It looked like a crack in the galaxy itself, slowly opening, and from inside, something ancient was watching. Scene break. 6-minute hook point reached 3 days past. No messages could be sent to Earth. Communications were blocked. Even backup systems failed. It's like the stars themselves are refusing to carry our words, Marin said. The station grew colder. Power flickered more often. Some crew members began hearing whispers in their sleep, strange words in alien tongues. Rhea held a meeting. We are being watched, she said calmly. This is not just an unknown force, it's a response. Something we did or someone did crossed a line. The crew looked worried. We need answers, Rhea continued. And I think the only way is to go to where the signal came from. You mean, cross the border? Juno asked. Yes, she said. If we stay here, we wait to be erased. If we go, we might find out what's coming. They prepared a ship, the Arrowhead, small, fast, and shielded. Only a few would go. Rhea, Juno, Marin, and a combat officer named Tarek Dunn. Before leaving, Rhea recorded a message for Earth. If this message ever reaches you, know this. We have crossed a line we did not understand. Something ancient is moving. This is not just about humans. This is about the balance of the galaxy itself. Watch the stars. They are changing. She stored the message in the station's deep core memory drive, hoping someone, someday, would find it. The arrowhead left the station and flew toward the edge. As they neared the coordinates, the stars became dimmer. Space was no longer silent, it had a strange hum, like music played backward. Then, they saw it, a massive ring of light, floating in space, not a machine, not a gate, just pure swirling energy. It pulsed with colors that human eyes were not made to see, and beyond it nothing, pure black, not empty, just, hidden. Juno whispered, "This must be the boundary." Rhea nodded. "We've already broken it, now we face what comes next." They passed through the ring. For a moment, all systems failed. Lights flickered, heartbeats stopped. Time paused. Then they were inside. The stars were gone. The universe looked different, and before them floated a small planet that cracked and glowing faint blue. "New target," Rhea said. "Let's land." That planet might hold the first answers. They didn't know it yet. But they had just entered a zone that no living race had ever returned from, and something was already waiting for them, watching, whispering, awake. The ship Arrowhead hovered above the dead planet. Rhea Holt stared out of the cockpit window. The planet below was silent. Its surface was full of cracks, dry lakes, and glowing blue dust. It had no name, no record, no orbiting satellites. It was like something erased it from every map. "Prepare for landing," Rhea said. The crew checked their suits. They wore light exo-armor with oxygen packs and sealed helmets. The planet's atmosphere was thin and possibly toxic. The Arrowhead landed gently on a flat, rocky surface near a strange tower-shaped ruin. The dust under the ship glowed as if alive. Tarek Dunn, the combat officer, stepped out first. His boots sank into the glowing dirt. "This place is wrong," he said. "Feels like it's watching us." Maren Voss scanned the area with her handheld sensor. No radiation, but there's something else. A strange magnetic pool under the surface. Rhea looked at the tall ruin ahead. It looked old, far older than human history. Symbols were carved into its walls. The same ones seen in the drone recording, and the same that appeared on ancient stones from Mars. "Let's go," Rhea said. "We need answers." Inside the ruin, it was dark and silent. Dust floated in the air like slow snow. The walls were covered in glowing lines, moving like liquid light. At the center was a strange platform. On it sat a cube-shaped device, softly humming. Juno stepped forward. "It's still active," he said. He touched it, and the room exploded with light. The crew dropped to the floor, covering their eyes. When they looked up, the ruin had changed. Now they were standing in a holographic simulation. A star map glowed. In the air around it were images of planets, creatures, ships, and destruction. A voice echoed, "You have come too far. You were warned. You did not listen. Who are you?" Rhea called out. No answer. Instead, the map zoomed in, showing a bright area, then slowly darkening until only black space remained. Then, a single sentence echoed in their minds. They crossed or were erased. Now you walk their path. Back on the Arrowhead, the crew was silent. "What does it mean?" Tarek asked. Rhea replied slowly. "It means others came before us. Others crossed the same line and they were destroyed." Maren looked at her scanner again. "Commander, there's something deep underground. A large structure. It's blocking our communications. Maybe that's why Earth can't hear us." Rhea nodded. "Let's find the entrance." They moved across the dry surface toward a hill where the signal was strongest. Suddenly, the ground shook. A deep rumble came from beneath. A giant crack split open near their feet. From the darkness, a beam of blue energy shot into the sky and then disappeared. Then silence. "What was that?" Juno asked, eyes wide. Maren was checking her scanner. Again her face turned pale. "Commander, something's coming from orbit. In space, something invisible moved above the planet." The Arrowhead's outer sensors picked it up. It had no heat, no mass, no known shape, but it was there, back on the planet. The crew ran toward the ship. "Get us in the air now," Rhea shouted. They jumped inside as the sky turned dark red. Lightning flashed above, but there were no clouds. The Arrowhead lifted off, engines burning fast as they rose. A wave of distortion followed them, like space itself was bending. Tarek looked at the radar. "It's chasing us." Suddenly, the ship's lights went out. Everything was black. For 10 seconds, they floated dead in space. Then, the lights returned. They were no longer above the planet. They were somewhere else, outside the ship. The stars looked different. The nearby sun had vanished. There was no planet behind them, only a cold black void. Rhea spoke slowly. "It moved us." "Where are we?" Juno asked. Moran stared at her screen. "We single quotes, nowhere. This area doesn't exist. It's not even space. It's like we were folded out of real space. A strange whisper came through the ship's speaker, a voice, but not a human one. Trial begins. Suddenly, the ship's interior changed. Walls shifted. Screens clicked. The crew could see reflections of themselves but in different places. Different timelines. Rhea saw herself as a child, looking at the stars with her father. Tarek saw himself in war, holding a gun, surrounded by bodies. Juno saw Earth in flames, cities falling, skies red, and Merrin saw a planet full of tall, glowing beings, all turning to dust in a wave of dark light. The voice returned. You are the messengers, the last to be warned, the first to be judged. Then, everything snapped back to normal. The ship was floating again above the planet. Only a few seconds had passed. Rhea looked at her crew. They were shaking, silent. What happened? She asked. No one could answer. She checked the ship's log. It had recorded something during the vision, a short message. This is the price of knowledge. You seek stars but awaken storms. Rhea clenched her jaw. We need to leave. Now. But, Marin interrupted her. Wait, look at this. She pointed to the side monitor. Another ship was approaching. It was old, rusted, covered in vines, but still moving. Its name was barely readable. Prospector-9. The lost mining ship. It was alive, and it was coming toward them. The lost ship Prospector-9 floated slowly toward them. Rhea and her crew watched it in silence from the Arrowhead's control room. The ship looked broken. Its outer walls were covered in dark vines, as if something had grown on it in deep space. Its lights flickered weakly. Its engines were off. It's not possible, Merrin said softly. That ship was lost 12 years ago. Rhea stared at the screen. It was the first to cross the border. Now, it had returned. They moved the Arrowhead closer. No signs of life. No energy signal. No response to communication. We're going in, Rhea said. Tarek prepared his weapon. We don't know what's inside. Rhea nodded. That's why we'll stay together. Helmets sealed. No direct contact. The airlock on Prospector-9 opened slowly. A hiss escaped, as if the ship sighed in pain. Inside, the hallways were dark and twisted. The metal walls were scratched. Symbols had been drawn everywhere, burned into the metal using some kind of heat. Merrin scanned the air. Toxic, no oxygen. And something else. Spore traces. The lights flickered above them as they walked. Every corner felt wrong. Every sound echoed too long. Then they saw it. A body. It was floating near a doorway, half merged with the wall. Not rotting but not alive. Its skin was gray and stretched. Its face was frozen in terror. Tarek raised his weapon. This is a graveyard. Rhea moved forward, voice steady. Check the command deck. See what the ship recorded. On the bridge of Prospector-9 they found the log system still working barely. Juno connected his tablet. Logs are scrambled, he said. But I found something. A video file. They watched. It showed the Prospector's crew, 12 people live and healthy. They were laughing, talking. The captain spoke into the camera. We've found something big. Deep inside the asteroid field. Strange metal veins. Not natural. We're drilling tomorrow. The next log showed fear. The crew was arguing. Lights were failing. Some spoke of voices, shadows, dreams. Then the final entry. We were warned. We drilled anyway. Now, something. Watchers from inside us. We're leaving this log in case anyone finds it. Don't follow us. Don't open the door beneath the planet. The video ended. Juno looked at Rhea. A door. Rhea's eyes narrowed. Under the planet, back on the Arrowhead, they checked the Prospector's stored map. It showed the location of something deep under the planet's crust, a massive sealed chamber, buried for millions of years. The Prospector had scanned it before losing power. They labeled it. The Valtria pointed to the coordinates. That's where we're going. Tarek frowned. You heard the warning. Rhea nodded. Yes, but whatever's happening to us started there. We need to know what was opened. They returned to the planet. This time, they landed near a massive crater filled with black sand. The scanner showed a hollow space below, too perfect to be natural. They began digging. Hours passed. Then they found it. A metal door, 30 meters wide, covered in strange carvings, symbols that glowed when touched, symbols that matched the ruins and the Prospector walls. As they approached, Rhea felt pressure in her head, a whisper. Do not enter, you are not ready. She stepped back. Did you hear that? Everyone nodded. Still they opened the door. It slid sideways with a sound like thunder. A deep staircase led downward into the planet's heart. Inside the vault, the walls were smooth, dark and warm. The air shimmered. The crew walked slowly, lights cutting through thick shadows. Soon, they entered a huge circular chamber. In the center stood a giant crystal structure, floating above the floor. It pulsed with dim red light, like a heartbeat. Around it 12 chairs, empty, but shaped like they once held beings. Not human, Marin gasped. This isn't a vault. It's a council room. Suddenly, the crystal pulsed brighter. A voice echoed in their minds. You opened the sealed memory. Now you must see what was buried. The room filled with visions. They saw worlds burning, entire galaxies falling, ships exploding in silence. Then, a council of ancient beings stood glowing, powerful. These beings stood before the crystal. They were arguing. One said, "The humans must never reach the edge." Another replied, "They are too young, too loud. They will wake the old ones." A third said, "Then we seal the border forever." They all agreed. And the crystal was buried. Back in the present, the vision ended. The crew stood frozen. Juno whispered, "We were not meant to come this far. They sealed us out for a reason." Rhea stepped forward. "What are the old ones?" The crystal flickered, and for one moment, the room changed. They were no longer in the vault. They were standing in space, in front of a giant eye, larger than a planet, floating in the void. It looked at them not with hate, not with interest, but with ancient awareness. Then it blinked. And they were back in the vault suddenly. Marin screamed. She fell to the floor, shaking. Her eyes rolled back, and strange symbols appeared on her. Skin glowing red. Tarek rushed to her. "She's burning up." Juno checked her vitals. She single quotes as ... changing something as writing inside her mind. Rhea ordered, "Back to the ship. Now." They carried Marin up the stairs and sealed the vault. As they took off, Rhea looked back at the crater. The crystal had vanished. Back in orbit, Marin slept in the med bay. The glowing symbols on her skin faded, but she was unconscious. Rhea sat beside her. She touched something in there, Juno said. "Something that wants to speak through her." Tarek paced. "We need to destroy that vault." Rhea looked at him. "It's too late for that. We've already triggered something. The question is, what will it do?" Outside the window, space shimmered again, far away. Near the edge of human charts, a red beacon appeared. It was new. It blinked once, then again. A signal. Rhea stood slowly. "A message," she said. And she knew, in her heart, this was just the beginning. The red beacon blinked in the black sky. From the Arrowhead's control room, Commander Rhea Holt watched it carefully. The beacon wasn't there before. It had no ID, no source, no energy trail. And yet it pulsed like it was calling. "It wants us to follow it," Juno said, frowning. Tarek stood beside him, gripping his weapon. "Or it's a trap." Rhea didn't answer immediately. She looked at Marin, still lying unconscious in the medbay. The strange glowing marks on her skin had stopped moving, but her brain was still active. "She's dreaming," Juno had said earlier. "But not like normal dreams. Her mind is connected to something bigger." 3 hours later, Marin woke up. Her eyes opened suddenly, glowing faint blue. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then, in a calm voice, she whispered, "The coordinates are not lost. They were hidden. Earth was not ready." Juno leaned close. "What coordinates?" Marin slowly raised her hand and pointed at the screen. A map appeared, one that no human system had ever shown. It revealed a small sector deep in space, far beyond any colony, past the official border of human expansion. Zone, Etherx, the place that didn't exist, the place no one was supposed to find. Rhea stared at the map. These coordinates were erased from Earth records. Marin nodded. 12 years ago, Earth sent a secret mission. They called it a resource hunt, but it was more than that. They broke the seal and never told anyone. Juno looked shocked. "Proshpato Novim," Marin whispered. "Yes, it went into Etherx and woke something." The crew reviewed classified files from Earth's backup database, locked by the strange code Marin now carried in her brain. The files were old, damaged, but clear enough. Prospector-9 had been ordered to investigate an unknown energy signal. Earth believed it was a power source, possibly alien. They ignored the warnings, erased the data, and sent a ship beyond the legal limits. That ship never returned. Until now. Rhea sat at the command chair. "We go to Etherx." Tarek crossed his arms. "That's suicide. We've already seen what lies beyond the border." Rhea looked him in the eye. "Exactly. We've seen pieces, but now we follow the full path. That signal, it's leading us." No one spoke. Finally, Juno nodded. "I'll set the course." The Arrowhead entered warp drive. Etherx was 6 light days away. Time passed slowly. The crew remained quiet, watching space blur outside the window. Marin spent most of her time drawing strange symbols. She didn't understand why. Her hands moved on their own. The patterns looked like maps. Orlox Raya joined her one evening. "You're changing," she said gently. Marin smiled faintly. "I don't think it's just me. I think we're all changing. Just by being out here." Raya said nothing, but deep inside, she agreed. When they arrived, the ship came out of Warpand, stopped dead. Aetherx wasn't a sector, it was a graveyard in front of them. Thousands of objects floated in space. Broken ships, unknown machines, giant stone rings, satellite pieces, frozen planets torn in half, all dead, no sound, no motion. Only one thing was active, a single black pyramid, floating at the center. "It's massive," Juno whispered, "bigger than any space station we've ever built." Rhea studied the scans. No power source, no engines. "But it's alive," Tarek added. "Or it's asleep." Marin pointed at it. "That's where the first signal came from, the one that started everything." They moved closer. As the arrowhead approached, a strange wave passed through the ship. All screens flickered. Time felt slower. Then a voice filled the ship. "You bring the same hunger, the same blindness, the same noise." Raya stood calmly. "We came for truth," the voice replied. "Then see it." A beam of light hit the ship, pulled it into the pyramid. Inside, the arrowhead landed in a vast chamber. Walls of black glass stretched endlessly. The room had no gravity, yet the crew floated safely. Then lights activated. Around them stood thousands of tall crystal pillars, each one holding an image. Planets, civilizations, wars, extinctions. They were inside a library, but not of books. A library of galactic memory. Marin stepped forward, as if drawn. One of the crystals lit up. It showed Earth, past, present, future. The vision moved quickly. Cities rose and fell. Space travel began. Then war, machines, fire in the sky. A giant wave of darkness approaching Earth. Then silence. The planet gone. Marin gasped and pulled back. Raya said softly, "It's showing us a possible future." Juno looked around. "Is this what happened to the others?" Then they saw another set of images. An alien species, tall and insect-like, exploring space. They found Aetherx. They took something from the pyramid. Within months, they were erased. Not by war, but by silence. Their entire network stopped responding. Their worlds went dark. Nothing survived. Then another, a reptilian race. Advanced, powerful. They entered the pyramid and tried to harness it. Within one cycle, their home star vanished. Tarek backed away. "This place isn't a warning, it's a weapon," Raya whispered. "No, it's a judge." Suddenly, all the crystals dimmed. A giant structure appeared before them, an orb of light and shadow. It spoke in all their minds. "Your kind was not chosen, but you were watched. You crossed the seal. Now you must decide." Raya asked. "Decide what?" The org pulsed. "Whether your kind becomes keeper ... or destroyer." The crew stood silent. The org continued. "All who come here carry something. Within, some come to take, some come to listen. You must choose your path." Then, without warning, the room went black. Each crew member found themselves alone. A test had begun. Raya stood in a desert. She saw Earth in the sky, burning. She saw herself holding a child. Then dropping it. A voice said, "You always chose duty over life. Were you again?" Tarek stood in a battlefield. His past surrounded him. He heard screams, saw blood on his hands. Juno saw himself building weapons, machines, feeding Earth's hunger for control. Marin stood on a tower. Below her, Earth was quiet, peaceful, but to keep it that way, someone had to stay silent forever. They all made their choices, and woke up back on the arrowhead. The crew looked changed. The orb had vanished. Instead, a new message glowed on the ship's console. "You have seen. You have survived. But others will come. They will not listen. Prepare the watchers." Raya stared at the screen. "Earth doesn't know what's coming," she said. Juno asked, "What do we do now?" Raya replied firmly, "We return, but not just to report. We prepare." In the black sky outside, a new beacon lit up. This time, it was not red. It was white, pure, steady, and visible from across the galaxy. A warning, a reminder, a test passed. For now. The white beacon behind the pyramid faded slowly as the arrowhead left Aetherx. The crew sat in silence. No one spoke for hours. They had seen the past, seen futures that might come. And now, they carried a message meant not only for Earth, for every human world in space. Still, something felt unfinished. Commander Rhea Holt stared at the black screen in front of her. "There's one more piece," she said quietly. Juno turned. "What do you mean?" "The Prospector 9, Rhea said. "We found it before, but we never went inside fully. The log said they opened a door, but they also said, something watches from inside us. We need to know what that means. Marin added, that ship returned without engines. Something sent it back. Tarek frowned. So we go inside again. After everything we saw, Raya nodded. Yes, but this time, we search its core. The Prospector 9 drifted not far from Eth. It had been waiting. Its lights were dim, but a strange energy field pulsed around it now. Scans showed no life but movement inside. Something is awake in there, Juno said, but not human. They docked the Arrowhead and suited up. Raya led the way. As the airlock opened, they stepped into cold darkness. The hallway smelled strange, metal and burned air inside. The ship had changed. The walls were covered in a new layer of dark organic material, like roots or veins. They pulsed faintly, glowing blue in the dark. Tarek touched one. It shivered slightly under his glove. Merrin scanned the walls. This is not normal biology. It's alive, but artificial, like memory turned into flesh. They reached the control room. The original pilot chairs were empty. Dust floated in the air. But on the floor, something moved. A body, but not fully human. It was a man half fused into the floor. His eyes opened slowly as they approached. Skin pale, symbols glowing beneath his skin. He whispered one word, listener. Raya knelt beside him. Who are you? His voice was weak. I was Captain Drex of Prospector 9. I stayed. They left. I became part of it. Part of what? Merrin asked. Drex smiled faintly. The mind that lives between stars. You call them old ones. But they are not old. They are ... awake and angry. He began coughing. Blue dust escaped from his mouth. Raya said softly, what happened to your crew? They heard the signal. It entered their dreams. It grew inside. We tried to leave, but we were already carrying it. Carrying what? Drex's eyes locked onto Raya's, the seed of return, and then he stopped breathing. The walls around them pulsed brighter. Suddenly, a deep humming filled the ship. Dota raised his weapon. The ship's waking up, Juno shouted, power levels rising. They ran toward the engine core. As they entered the main shaft, they saw the heart of the ship glowing. But it wasn't a reactor anymore, it was something else. A pod growing out of the engine, wrapped in dark vines. Inside, something floated. Humanoid but not human. It had no face, just smooth white skin and a circle of glowing lights where the eyes should be. Merrin gasped. It's forming, Raya said. Shut down the core. Now Juno activated his tools, but it's resisting Mayets, protecting the pod. Suddenly, the pod pulsed and the Arrowhead sent an alert. Automatic broadcast initiated. To Earth, Tarek shouted. It's sending data. Earth will receive it in hours. Raya cursed. They wanted us to find this, to carry it home. They had been used. Prospector-9 wasn't just a warning. It was a delivery system. And now, they were the delivery crew. Back on the Arrowhead, they launched emergency footwalls. Juno shut down the broadcast system, but only after 27% of the alien data had already been sent. Too late. Earth had received the beginning of something wrapped in code, and memory, and ... infection. They destroyed the pod using plasma fire. The vines screamed as they burned, and literally, the sound was horrible, echoing like a child's cry and machine static. Combined, the Prospector 9 shook violently. Systems failed. Lights exploded. They ran. The moment they jumped back to the Arrowhead, the Prospector detonated silent, fiery light spreading across space. Tarek collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard. That's done. Marin shook her head. No, that was just the shell. Raya looked at her, explained. Marin stared blankly, as if remembering a distant voice. The real infection is not physical. It's thought. It spreads through dreams, through memory. It began with the Prospector, but now ... it's inside us. The crew stood in silence. Raya asked, are we all ... infected? No one answered. That night they slept in shifts. Raya dreamed. She saw Earth giant towers rising, oceans turning black, children born with glowing eyes. She walked through a city, and every person turned to her and whispered the same word, listener. She woke with a sharp breath. Outside, space shimmered. Again. Another beacon had appeared. This one blinked rapidly like a warning signal, but the color was different. It was green. Juno checked the coordinates. This one is coming from somewhere else, a new location. We've never seen this system before. Raya looked at her crew. We're going, she said. Tarek frowned. After everything, Raya replied firmly. Yes, because something is preparing to speak, and we're the only ones who can still listen without being controlled. As they changed course, the Arrowhead began receiving short bursts of alien code. It was not a threat, it was an invitation. And deep inside the signal was something human, a voice, a name. Dr. Eno Varas. Raya's eyes widened. He had vanished years ago before the prospector ever launched. And now, he was calling them. The ship Arrowhead moved silently through the dark. The green beacon led them across unmapped space, a strange system not listed in any human database. No stars nearby. No colonies, just a single cold planet with a shattered ring around it, spinning in silence. At the center of the signal was a name, Dr. Eno Varas. Juno checked the logs. Dr. Varas was a Xenotech scientist, vanished 20 years ago during a black site mission, Marin added. He was studying ancient memory codes, said to have found something older than the galaxy. Raya stared at the frozen world ahead. Then maybe he never vanished. Maybe he was pulled in. Like us. Tarek looked at his scanner. I don't trust it. The signal, it's human, but something's wrapped around it, like it's being ... echoed. Or reshaped, Marin whispered. The Arrowhead landed on the planet. The surface was dead and icy. Winds moved across it like whispers. Nothing alive. No sun in the sky, just a distant black hole slowly eating light. They wore heavy suits and moved toward the signal's source, an old research base half buried in ice. Above the doorway, the name still glowed faintly, Orion Deep 12 Research. Outposts inside the halls were cracked and dark. Ice covered the walls, some doors had caved in, others had symbols burned into metal. Marin touched one and paused. These weren't made by human tools, these were burned by thought. They entered the command room. There, sitting in a chair, was a man, alive, eyes closed, wires running from his head into a glowing cube. He hadn't moved in years, yet he breathed. Juno scanned him, heart slow, brain activity, enormous. He's dreaming. Raya walked closer. Dr. Varas. The man opened his eyes slowly, glowed pale white. He smiled faintly. You're late. They helped him disconnect from the cube. He sat upright, blinking slowly. Raya spoke first. You sent the signal. Varas nodded. I've been waiting. Earth never answered. But I saw your ship. Saw the prospector. Saw the vault. Marin asked. You saw all that from here? No, Varas said softly. I saw it from inside. The echo. He stood and walked toward the center of the room. The floor opened, revealing a sphere of shifting light, floating in a column of frost. This is the echo core, he explained. It's not a machine. It's a memory. From the first ones, Raya frowned. The old ones, Varas nodded. We call them that, but they don't call themselves anything. They don't use names, they use echoes. Moments in time. They don't live like us. They remember ... and from memory, they act. Juno whispered. So everything we've seen was memory. Varas looked at him. Yes, memory strong enough to become real. He turned to Raya. You were chosen. Not because you're strong, but because you listened. Raya narrowed her eyes. Chosen for what? Varas stepped into the light. To carry the final message. The echo core lit up. Everyone froze. In their minds. A vision unfolded. They saw Earth, future Earth. A great tower reaching into the stars. Ships flying between systems. Peace. Progress. Then something changed. The stars blinked out. Space bent. And from the edge of the galaxy, a wave of silence came. Not fire, not war. Just silence. Worlds stopped speaking. No signals, no data, no thought. Nothing, no thought. Nothing, as if the minds of billions had simply shut off. The vision ended. Marin was shaking. That's not an attack. Varas nodded. It's a response. Raya asked. To what? Varas looked straight at her. To ignorance, to noise, to the spreading of minds that refused to remember what came before. He paused, then added, the prospector opened the path. The vault showed the warning, but Earth has already received the signal. Juno looked alarmed. You mean when prospector sent the broadcast? Yes, said Varas. And now, the process has begun. Earth has entered the watch zone. The minds are observing. Tarek raised his voice. So what do we do? Fight? Run? Varas smiled sadly. Neither. You prepare. You warn. You help Earth understand what's coming. Marin pointed at the core. Can we use it? Can it stop the signal? Varas shook his head. No, but it can teach Earth how to survive it. Raya looked at the swirling light. Then we take it. With us. They moved the echo core to the Arrowhead using antigrav pods. The sphere pulsed gently like a heart. Dr. Varas joined them. I cannot leave for long, he warned. The echo changed me. I live half in dream now. But I will guide you. Before takeoff, Marin walked outside the base alone. She listened. The wind had stopped. Then she heard it. A whisper, not from the sky, from beneath the planet. A deep, rumbling voice, not words, just a feeling. We are watching. Back in space, the crew gathered. Rya looked at them. We go back to Earth. Not to scare, not to bring war, but to bring the truth. They won't believe us is believe Veras replied. Then we must show them. The echo core pulsed, brighter, and, as the arrowhead turned toward home, far behind them, the black hole shimmered. A single eye-shaped glow opened above it, watching, remembering, voiding.